Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Going to be getting back to work on my PSA Rock 5.7 in this video. I did a intro to it real quick in a previous video, and now it is time to start the whole teardown, disassembly walkthrough, as well as seeing if there's anything we can clean up on it. But I figure this will help people out so you can kind of see how these things work, how everything's put together, things along those lines. So what I'm going to do is get the camera set up on a stand, grab some tools, and then start walking you through everything. Basically, as you can see, there are 4 pinholes on this side, and that's pretty much where you're going to be going. You're going to be knocking pins out and pulling out internals, just in the right order, to get everything out properly. So I'm going to go ahead, get things set up, and I'll be right back. All right, so I didn't put it on the stand yet because I wanted to show you this. I did start knocking the pins out, as you can see. The back 2, these are roll pins, so they're definitely a tighter fit. The 2 that are in the trigger area, they just seem to be like press fit pins. They're solid, with like a larger end on this side, it seems to be. So hammer everything in that direction. These popped out really easily. There wasn't a whole lot, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of tension holding them in place. These you're gonna have to fight with because they are roll pins. For 3 of them, you're gonna go ahead and use a 3/32 punch. And then 1 is a little bit smaller. For that one, you are going to use a 5/64. That would be this roll pin here. Everything else, you can go ahead and use the 3/32. All right, and as you can see, pins are all out. So what I'm going to do first is pull out the back block because that seems to go over the trigger bar. Again, this is the first time I'm taking one of these apart, so it's kind of learn as I go, and you're going to be following along. Once that's out, I should be able to take out the trigger block portion. So I'm going to grab a hold of this, see if it will come up and out. I might need to get a pair of pliers or something, but I'm going to mess with it, and I'll let you know once I have it out. All right, that was easy enough. It just lifted up and out. It was just stuck a little bit on the side, but as soon as I had better grip on it, pulled it, came right up, and it does include the slide catch mechanism that stays on it as well. So next is going to be the trigger assembly. I'm going to see about getting that removed. All right, for the trigger block, I figured out how to get it out of here. It's a little interesting because you have the takedown lever, which is kind of latched into place. But what you're going to have to do is you push down on it from the top and get it kind of down low, all the way extended out like this. And then if you wiggle the actual block assembly itself, it will disconnect from that. There's like a lip on the inside, or on the bar for this takedown. So I'm going to go ahead. I need both hands to do that. I'm going to get it removed, and then I'll show you once I come back. All right, here you can see the trigger block assembly is removed, and here's the assembly itself. So what you have to do is there's this little tang off the side here that fits into, if you flip it this side, this plate comes off. There's this little plate that's keyed on the inside. That's what you kind of need to walk it out of. So like I said, push down on it, and then you just kind of need to walk the block. If you pick up from the front on the block and just kind of wiggle it back and forth like that on the front, it'll eventually clear and come out. And then, yeah, watch how you have this thing canted. If you have it leaning this way and you take the block out, this little piece is going to fall out, and if you don't know what it is or where it goes, it might drive you nuts. But it sits in this groove here with the full angled end on towards the back of the gun, and the notch in the front connects right there because that actually operates that. So that is how it sits in there. It does move back and forth as part of the function. So there are the 2 blocks removed from the firearm. So as far as the frame goes, that really just leaves the takedown mechanism and then the magazine release. As far as this goes, all you really need to do is push down on it, and you can see the spring is there on the inside. If you hold on to it like this, push down and slide back a little bit, it'll come off all as one piece. Just watch that spring. If you're not careful, it will go flying. As far as the magazine release goes, it's basically 2 prongs, kind of like a fork, and they have a edge that goes outward on each side that hooks into this. I'm not going to mess around with trying to take it out. My guess is you're going to have to like pry and compress the spring a little bit to get it out of those grooves. or maybe if you just pull on it hard enough with a pair of pliers. I have no need to take it out, so I'm not going to, but you know, that's how I'm seeing the best way to do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out just so I don't lose it accidentally. Moving stuff around, it may fly off because without having the block in there, it is loose in its place, but that I'm gonna leave alone. And you can see the mechanism is out and it is sitting right there with the pins. So that is it as far as the frame goes. I'm going to push this off to the side, and now it is going to be on to the two blocks. I'm going to start with the rear block. All right, so before I start taking anything apart, I kind of want to show you how things function after I've gone over things. Here is, you know, your trigger bar that comes back, and this is going to engage the side of the rear housing here. Now there are a couple of things that this trigger bar does. So looking at the housing here, right here you have that. This is your actual sear that is popped up on top that I'm hitting with the flat blade. That is what is going to connect with your firing pin in the slide. On the side here, you can see this is going to be your firing pin safety. What happens is you pull the trigger, the top part of the sear here is going to push up on that, which is going to push up into the slide and release the firing pin safety, which I'll show you that when I do the slide work. And then this tab here, as it's coming back, is going to push on this lever or this pivot point in here, which that is what actually will hold the sear and fire the pistol. So that is really your operating parts that are on this block as far as the fire control unit goes. And then you obviously have your ejector that's going to, you know, pop the rounds out of the chamber and slide once it cycles back. And then on the side you have the slide lock bar, which that attaches to this housing as well. So that's really the functionality of the rear portion. So I'm going to go ahead and start disassembling. It's just a couple of pins that hold everything together. I'm going to get those taken out. I'll show you what you need to do, and we'll get all the pieces apart. All right, first is the slide lock, and I basically just walked this out. You know, you've got that little pin there that goes through the hole, and then that tab goes underneath the spring. If you flip this over on the side, the spring should come out. Just be careful you don't lose it. I'm gonna get that removed and put these off to the side. All right, spring's out, and I put that with the bar right there. Did have to use a little flat blade just to work it out a little bit because it was under tension, so just be careful of that. Next thing I'm gonna do is use a 1/16 punch and pop out the pin in this hole here, and that is what holds the safety, the firing pin safety bar in. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that out and get that removed. All right, check that. Instead, I removed this is the piece that releases the sear that the trigger bar will actually connect. This has this pin that comes out the other side, and this is what came out right here that the slide lock pivoted off of. I just grabbed a pair of pliers and pulled that out. So that came out no problem. So those are the parts there. There is a spring there, and this is the orientation. It will basically go straight back up into that channel there as you see it in this orientation with that bar up. All right, so next is the sear, and I already popped out the pin that holds it in place. That goes through the hole that you can see right here under my fingertip, and you can kind of see the spring outline in there. So, you know, take note, that's how the sear spring sits in there, and then the sear itself sits above it right in this area here and pushes down on it, and that's what puts the upward pressure on the sear. So pull the pin out, lift this out, and then if you flip it over, the spring should come out, but that way you can at least see the orientation of the spring. Maybe not, maybe it's not going to come out so easy. It might, there it goes. There's the sear spring and the orientation. It's got a tang that's going to sit down in the hole right there and then sit there, and then the spring sits, or the sear sits on top of the spring, and that is what pushes up. So the last part on this block is that pin that you see right there, and that is again for this fire control safety, as well as that holds in the ejector. I cannot seem to get that out. You can see what happened to my punch trying to hammer it out, so I need to get a new punch. This was already kind of bent, so I have a feeling it was just compromised, and that's why. But I'm going to need to get a new punch for that, so I'm going to skip this, and we'll come back to that part at another time. So with that, I am going to move on to the trigger group and start taking that apart. First thing is going to be the trigger bar. Looks like I'm just going to have to release the spring tension off the bar, and then I should be able to angle it out. I'm going to go ahead and mess with that. And as you can see, trigger assembly is out. And yeah, that was as simple as I disconnected the spring from here. That let the trigger loose, and then I just used a punch to just push the pin out. It wasn't any tension or anything like that. It just slid right out. It was that hole there. And then here's the spring, which again clips on that spot there, as well as the tab on the trigger bar. So that is the trigger. That, I believe, only leaves one more part on this block, and that is this portion, which is part of the fire breach retainer, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead, pop that pin out, and get it out. And same thing, just had to push the pin through. There was no tension or anything on it. And there is a spring on this side, which will come out with it. So make sure you do not lose that. So you put those parts off to the side. And looking at the block, that is it as far as this block goes and as far as parts that you need to remove. There's that little roll pin in there, but I'm going to leave that in place because all that is for holding the spring. That's not going to take anything else out. Everything else on here is a solid machined piece. So that is actually going to where I'm going to end this one. I just went ahead and ordered a new punch, but I can't get that last pin out until I have it. So I will just come back to that in the next video. Next video is going to be going through cleaning up, polishing, any little bit of work I want to do to any of these parts. And then the video after that will be full reassembly, and then it'll be on to the slides. So if you want to follow along, see how things turn out, please hit like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. I do review them and I will reply. I do also have a Rumble page. There is a link to that in the description to this video. I also have another YouTube channel related to automotive items. If that is something that interests you, please check it out. There is a link in the description of this video as well. And that being said, thank you very much for watching and have a great day.